everyone, this is Soft Sound Whispers. This is my second video for you. It's been a while since I actually did my first one, but I figured I've got a bit of spare time today, and I thought as I'm getting things done, I'll get one of these done. So, some of my favourite whisper sessions are of people reading books. So, I figured I would try a video doing the same. I'm quite an old-fashioned person, so the kind of things that I will choose to read to you are going to be a little bit whimsical, I imagine. I'm also going to be reading this while drinking a cup of tea, because I always think that's a really nice touch. Drinking an English breakfast tea. It's a Marks and Spencer's brand. It's my favourite. Okay, so the book that I'm going to be reading to you is called The Castle of Adventure, and it's written by Enid Blyton, who I am an avid fan of. I've been reading her books since I can remember, in fact probably since I started to read. So, and I shall be reading it to you over the course of the week, I suppose. It's an old book. I picked it up at a car boot sale. I did have quite a lot of books when I was growing up, but I don't know where my mother would have put them. She's probably sold them on or given them to charity or something. So it is an old book. It's beautiful, actually. It's got a cloth hardback cover, and all the pages are stained. Anyway, let me get on with it. Chapter 1 now for the holidays. 2 girls sat on a window seat in their school study. One had red wavy hair and so many freckles that it was impossible to count them. The other had dark hair that stuck up in front of an amusing tuft. "One more day, and then the holidays begin," said red-haired Lucienne, looking at Dinah out of curious green eyes. "I'm longing to see Jack again. A whole term is an awfully long time to be away from him." "Well, I don't mind being away from my brother," said Dinah with a laugh. "Philip's not bad, but he does make me wild, always bringing in those awful animals and insects of his." "It's a good thing there's only one day between our breaking up of holidays," said Lucienne. "We shall be home first, and we can have a good look around, and then the next day we shall meet the boys. Hurrah!" "I wonder what this place is like that Mother has taken for the holidays," said Dinah. I'll get out her letter and read it again." She fished in her pocket for the letter and took it out. She skimmed it through. "She doesn't say very much, only that she wants our home to be decorated and cleaned, and so she has taken a cottage somewhere in the hills for us to stay in these holes," said Dinah. "Here's the letter." Lucienne took it and read it with interest. "Yes, it's a place called Spring Cottage, and it's on the side of Castle Hill. She says it's rather a lonely sort of place, but packed with wild birds, so Jack will be very pleased." "I can't understand your brother being so mad on birds," said Dinah. "He's just as mad about birds as Philip is about insects and animals." "Philip is marvellous with animals, I think," said Lucienne, who had a great admiration for Dinah's brother. "You do remember that mouse he trained to take crumbs from between his teeth?" "Oh, don't remind me of those things," said Dinah with a shudder. She could not bear even a spider near her, and bats and mice made her squeal. Lucienne thought it was queer that she should have lived so many years with an animal-loving brother like Philip, and yet still be afraid of things. "He does tease you, doesn't he?" she said to Dinah, remembering how Philip had often put earwigs under Dinah's pillow and black beetles in her shoes. He really was a terrible tease when he was in the mood. No wonder Dinah had such a temper. "I wonder how Kiki has got on this term," said Dinah. Kiki was Jack's parrot, an extremely clever bird who could imitate voices and sound in the most remarkable manner. Jack had taught her many phrases, but Kiki had picked up many, many more herself, especially from a cross old uncle that Lucienne and Jack had once lived with. Kiki wasn't going to be allowed to be at school with Jack this term, said Lucienne sadly. It's an awful pity. But he's got a friend in the town to look after her for him, and he goes to see her every day. But I do think they have let him have her. But I do think they might have let him have her at school. Well, considering that Kiki kept telling the headmaster not to sniff, and Jack's form master to wipe his feet, and woke everyone up at night by screeching like a railway engine, I'm not surprised they didn't let Kiki in this term, said Dinah. Anyway, we'll be able to have her for the holes, and that will be nice. I really do like Kiki. She doesn't seem like a bird, but like one of us somehow. Kiki certainly was a good companion. Although she didn't converse with the children properly, she could talk 19 to the dozen when she wanted to, saying the most ridiculous things and making the children laugh till they cried. She adored Jack, and would sit quietly on his shoulder for hours, as if he would let her. The girls were glad that the holidays were soon coming. They and the two boys and Kiki would have good fun together. Lucienne especially looked forward to being with Dinah's pretty, merry mother. Jack and Lucienne Trent had no father or mother, and had lived with a cross old uncle for years until by chance they had met Philip and Dinah Mannering. These two had no father, but they had a mother, who worked hard for them. She worked so hard that she had no time to make a home for them, so they were sent to boarding school and in the holidays went to an aunt and uncle. But now things were changed. Dinah's mother had enough money to make a home for them and had offered to have their great friends Jack and Lucienne as well. So in term time the two girls went to school together and the two boys were at another school. In the holidays, all four joined up with Miss Mannering, the mother of Philip and Dinah. No more uncles and aunts, said Dinah joyfully, who hadn't much liked her absent-minded old uncle Jocelyn. Just a lovely home with my mother. Now in the coming holidays, they were all to be together in the holiday cottage that Mrs. Mannering had found, although Dinah was a little disappointed at not going back to the home her mother had made for them at all. She couldn't help looking forward to the holiday cottage. It sounded nice, and what fine walks and picnics they would have among the hills. Do you remember that marvellous adventure we had last summer? She said to Lucienne, who was looking dreamily out of the window, thinking how lovely it would be to see her brother Jack in the next few days. Lucienne nodded. Yes, she said, and then she screwed up her freckled nose a little. It was the most exciting venture anyone could have, but oh dear, how afraid I was sometimes. That Isle of Gloom, do you remember it, Dinah? Yes, and that shaft going right down into the heart of the earth, and how we got lost there. Golly, that was an adventure, said Dinah. I wouldn't mind having another one, really. You are queer, said Lucienne. You shiver and shake as soon as you see a spider, but yet you seem to enjoy adventures so exciting that they make me tremble even to remember them. Well, we shan't have any more, said Dinah, rather regretfully. One adventure like that is enough for a lifetime, I suppose. I bet the boys will want to talk about it again and again. Do you remember how, in the Christmas holidays, we couldn't make them stop? Oh, I wish the holidays would come quickly, said Lucienne, getting off the window seat restlessly. I don't know why these last 2 or 3 days days always drag so. But tomorrow came at last, and the two girls went off on the train with scores of their friends chattering and laughing. Their luggage was safely in the van, their tickets were in their purses, and their hearts beat fast in delight. Now for the holidays. They had to change trains twice, but Dinah was good at that sort of thing. Lucienne was timid and shy in her dealings with strangers, but 12-year-old Dinah stood no nonsense from anyone. She was a strapping, confident girl, well able to hold her own. Lucienne seemed 2 or 3 years younger to Dinah, although actually they were only 1 year between them. At last they were at the station for their holiday home. They leapt out and Dinah yelled to the one and only porter. He ran to get their luggage. There's Mother, shouted Dinah, and rushed to her pretty bright-eyed mother who had come along to meet them. Dinah was not one to hug or kiss very much, but Lucienne made up for that. Dinah gave her mother one quick peck of a kiss, but Lucy-Anne gave her a bear hug and rubbed her red head happily against Mrs. Mannering's chin. "Oh, it's lovely to see you again," she said, thinking for the 100th time how lucky Dinah was to have a mother of her own. She felt grateful to her for letting her share her. It wasn't very nice having no father or mother to write to or welcome you home, but Mrs. Mannering always made her feel that she loved her and wanted her. "I've got the car outside to meet you," said Mrs. Mannering. "Come along, the porter will bring your luggage." They went out of the station. It was only a little country station. Outside was a country lane, its banks starred with spring flowers. The sky was blue and the air was warm and soft. Lucy-Anne felt very happy. It was the first day of the holidays. She was with Dinah's lovely mother, and tomorrow the boys came home. They got into the little car, and the porter put the trunks in the back. Mrs. Mannering took the wheel. "It's quite a long way to Spring Cottage," she said. "We have to fetch our own goods and food from the village here, except for eggs and butter and milk, which a nearby farm lets me have. But it's a lovely country, and there are marvellous walks for you, just for birds. As for birds, well, Jack will have the time of his life. It's nesting time too. He'll be thinking of nothing but eggs and nests," said Lucy-Anne, feeling just a little jealous of the bird life that took up so much of her brother's time. The girls looked around them as Mrs. Mannering drove along. It certainly was a lovely country. It was very hilly, and in the distance the hills looked blue and rather exciting. The car ran along a road down a winding river valley, and then began to climb a steep hill. "Oh, is our cottage on the side of this hill?" said Dinah, thrilled. What a lovely view we'll have, Mother." "We have, right across the valley to the other hills, and yet more hills rising beyond them," said her mother. The car had to go very slowly now, for the road was steep. As they rose higher and higher, the girls could see more and more across the valley. Then Lucy-Anne glanced upwards to see how high they were. She gave a shout. "I say, look at that castle on the top of the hill. Just look at it." Dinah looked. It certainly was the most imposing and rugged old castle. It had a tower each end, and its walls looked thick. It had slit windows, but it had wide ones too, which looked a little old. Is it a really old castle?" asked Lucy-Anne. "No, not really," said Mrs. Mannering. "Some of it's old, but most of it has been restored and rebuilt. So it has a real mix-up. Nobody lives there now. I don't know who it belongs to either. No one seems to know or care. It's shut up, and it hasn't got a very good name." "Why, did something horrible happen there?" "Once," asked Dinah, feeling rather thrilled. "I think so," said her mother. "But I really don't know anything about it. You'd better not go up there anyhow, because the road up to it has had a landslide or something, and it's very dangerous. They say that part of the castle is ready to slip down the hill." "Gracious, I hope it won't slip onto our cottage," said Lucy-Anne, half scared. Mrs. Mannering laughed. "Of course not. We are nowhere near it. Look, there's our little cottage, tucked away amongst those trees." It was a lovely little cottage with a thatched roof and small leaded windows. The girls loved it the minute they saw it. It's just a bit like the house you brought for us," said Dinah. That's pretty too. Oh, Mother, we shall have a lovely time here. Won't the boys be thrilled?" There was a fair-sized shed at the side to which Mrs. Mannering drove the car. Everyone got out. "Leave the trunks for a bit," said Dinah's mother. "The man who comes from the farm will carry them in. Now welcome to Spring Cottage." So that's the end of the first chapter. And that's also the end of my cup of tea. I hope you enjoyed that, and tomorrow I'll be reading chapter number 2. Thank you.